Welcome to The Curated Craftsman, a podcast where we'll learn about the hands, head, and heart behind creative entrepreneurs just like you. Kate Cook is the artistic drive behind Asphalt Canvas Custom Art and your host for this conversation about art, business, and belief.
Today we're getting to know the hands, head, and heart behind Ellen Mote, an artist whose creative journey spans the continents, mediums, and seasons of life. As a child growing up in Nigeria, Ellen was immersed in a vibrant culture that sparked her love for travel and planted the early seeds of self-expression. That dynamic upbringing would shape her artistic vision for decades to come, eventually leading her to earn a BFA in art and to build not only one, but two creative careers. For over a decade, Ellen has been the founder and designer behind Ellen Mote Jewelry, a studio known for crafting timeless handmade pieces with intentionality. In recent years, Ellen has also embraced full-time painting, translating her eye of form and balance into abstract works on unprimed canvas. Her airy and layered compositions often reflect the female form, softened with sheer shapes and colors. Now based in Waco, Texas, Ellen is not only an accomplished artist and entrepreneur, but she is a mother navigating the creative tension between caring for others and carving out space for her own voice. Her work has been featured in Texas Monthly, Magnolia Journal, and most recently her solo exhibition, Sheer Disposition, at Washington Gallery. Today we'll talk about her evolution as an artist and how she balances multiple creative ventures and motherhood, and how the principles of hands, head, and heart continue to shape everything she makes. Let's get to know the deeply thoughtful world of Ellen Mote. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning back into the Curated Craftsman podcast. Tonight I have a really special guest on. Her name is Ellen Mote, and we want to just welcome Ellen here to the show tonight. Thank you for being here.
Kate, thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. So I did a deep dive on your website, on both websites, because most people should know on the front end that you have a painting business and a jewelry business. And I found it so interesting that you actually have built out these businesses separate from each other. So you have a website for each, but the work ultimately complements each other so beautifully. So congrats on that. I definitely want to talk about having the two different businesses and how that kind of transpired. But what I think we should start with is, can you tell us a little bit about how you were raised and where you're from?
The question of where I'm from always trips me up a little bit because I didn't move around so much as a kid, but I don't really have a single identity as a place of this is where I'm from. The most informative thing about my childhood is that my family lived in Lagos, Nigeria, and my dad was in gas and oil, so that's what brought us over there. And we were there for about 2.5 years. And that has informed so much of my life today. And so when people say, where are you from? I'm like, well, I'm not from Lagos, but I was born in Oklahoma and I lived there until I moved to Texas with Lagos in the mix as well. But I don't really have a lot of identity with Oklahoma either. I mean, my kids were born here. I am a Texan through and through now. But I think that the time we spent in Lagos, I still see that playing out today because I'm so enamored with traveling and exploring cultures and digging into new experiences. And I'm not afraid of the unknown. That actually thrills me. And just the vibrancy of the people in Lagos and the friendliness, I can definitely see how that plays into my work.
Yes, and so how long did you live there? Was it throughout your whole childhood?
We moved there when I was 6 and we moved back when I was 9.
Wow,
So really informative, like younger
yeah.
years.
Wow, that's really, really cool. And so were your parents were you always an artist as a kid? Like how did that whole art creativity vein in your body start? Like when did it really start taking notice? Like, okay, she could do this for a living.
Well, I always loved art as a kid, but
Yeah.
I didn't see it as there was no examples of it being a career. Both my parents are CPAs, and so me loving art was like, oh, kids like art.
Yeah.
And my parents didn't really recognize that in me as something unusual or more particular.
Yes.
It was actually my mom, a friend of my mom's who really saw that in me. And
Hmm.
once I was in high school, I was could pursue it a little bit more because you're able to verbalize things and communicate what you want more clearly
Right.
than you could in younger years.
Yes.
So in high school, I started taking art lessons and I ended up studying art in college. But in my experience, I always thought, oh, I'm an artist and I like art. But I thought everyone thought they were an artist because
Oh,
it felt so natural. I was like, well, we all do this. We
that's
all like this.
that's like a beautiful perspective on humans.
It's so pure.
Yes, wow, I love that. So I saw that you went to school, to college actually for jewelry, not
I
painting.
have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree, and I went in thinking I would specialize in painting. When you get an art degree, you have to take sculpture and printmaking and ceramics and everything.
Yeah.
And as a freshman, you really get like the last pick
Yeah.
of classes. And so when I was signing up for classes, there was the only thing open was a course in metalsmithing and jewelry design, which we had to take anyway. So I thought,
Yeah.
great, I'll take metalsmithing. And that first course, I just fell in love with it. And I was sitting there with my painting friends who were also got like last pick, and they were like, oh, just
Yeah.
like not
Me.
liking it, complaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my word, I love this so much. I honestly felt kind of ashamed that I shouldn't be liking it so much. And it's kind of that group think mentality where
Mm.
you don't want to be the odd one out.
Yes.
And so I kind of downplayed how much I liked it. Took
Wow.
another course the next semester and decided, yeah, I'm going to just do this now. And I still took painting courses as well.
Yes.
But I remember calling my parents and who were supporting me getting a degree in art, which was already like so, which was just a stretch for them
I'm sure with their
with their
background.
background.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I called them and I was like, hey, mom and dad, I'm actually going to do metalsmithing and jewelry design now instead of painting. And don't worry, I'll always have a job because I can always make wedding rings.
Hmm.
And it's
Yes.
funny now because I've made like 4 wedding rings
Wow.
ever. So it's not really something I do at all.
Yes. Well, it's so funny because my previous conversation for this podcast was a wedding ring maker primarily. That's all his job was, is to do wedding rings. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he has an amazing business. You'll see it on the podcast, but they make wedding rings out of all different kinds of like really interesting and different materials and things like that. But that's so cool that your parents were supportive, even though they really didn't have an example of how this could work out for you. Because I have a very similar like upbringing. My parents were always very, very supportive of me being an artist. And they had some like real life talks with me, around certain things like, hey, this could be really challenging. But it was always in a situation where like they told me the reality of what it could be, and then they would back it up with like, but we're here for you, we're going to support you, God is with you. They were always very supportive in that way. So I think we're really lucky to have those types of parents that didn't have an example of like what it looked like to be a successful artist, especially back then because there wasn't even social media. And then they still were like, yeah, we're going to help you get through college to pursue this like kind of mystical career that we've never even seen exist.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so cool. Very special. And so I do want to talk to you because I also saw on your website, and I keep saying that, but I just always like to do a little research before I talk to people. But you went to Italy, and that's so exciting because that's been a through thread for a lot of my oil painter or people on here, oil painting, acrylics, any kind of painter. I've noticed they've studied in Italy, myself included. So tell me a little bit about that. I always love hearing people's stories around that.
Oh my word. Do you ever look back at something and you think, where did I get that idea? Or how did I have the guts to do that or ask for that? That's
Mm.
kind of what I think about Italy. I did a semester there
Oh, wow.
in my junior year of college, and I don't really know how it all came together, but it was so transformational. And we lived the Uffizi Museum. I was in Florence,
Okay.
and the Uffizi is, you know, world famous.
Yes.
Have you been to Florence,
Yes.
Kate? Okay, so
Yes.
maybe you've been to the Uffizi.
Yes, I have.
When you exit the museum, you exit onto this small little street, and that was my street. My window from my bedroom looked at the Uffizi, and if you
Oh,
turned your head to the side, you could see the Arno River. And I just let myself be so transformed by the beauty and the culture and the history. And I took a fresco painting class when I was there with
cool.
two teachers named Mario and Luigi. Not a joke. It was a phenomenal time. My boyfriend, then husband now, came to visit me, and he also fell in love with the city. And we've since been back so many times
Oh,
it
wow.
because it's just become like I left a piece of my heart there.
Yes.
So
Yes.
returning is like coming back to a part of myself that I can't embody
Huh. That's
when
so
I'm here.
beautiful. When you got back home, did you, at this point, were you like making jewelry on your own, or was it more like for customers, or were you still just doing coursework and things like that?
Only coursework. I didn't
Okay.
start making jewelry, wearable jewelry, until after I graduated. Making
Okay.
a traditional wearable piece of jewelry in the art world, especially in the art department and colleges, that
Yes.
is the most sellout thing you can do. And yeah,
Wow.
like making a living from your skills or craft or whatever is kind of frowned upon, which is, they're encouraging the myth of the starving artist, if you will. So I never even considered making jewelry as a thing. It wasn't until I graduated from school. My husband and I were living in Portland, Oregon, and I started working for a jewelry designer there.
Wow.
And I realized, whoa, I have a skill here. I am able, like, I can actually use what I learned in school, which felt was feeling like a throwaway degree because it's so niche and so specific
Mhm.
that I didn't ever think I would use it at all. And honestly, I had a really weird experience right when I graduated, and this woman came up to me, totally random, in a restaurant. I was there with my mom and my sister, and this woman approached me and she said, "Are you an artist?" And I said, "I am." And she said, "Well, people are going to steal your designs, and you're only going to be successful because you're young." And it like really freaked me out. And it felt like spiritual warfare. And so I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm meant to do this,
Oh,
which it's so I didn't do, it was like the week I graduated from school. I packed up all my tools and I was like, yeah, I think that chapter of my life is over, which
oh,
I'm sorry, I was 22. Like,
yeah.
what?
And had you at all been doubting, like you said, you were thinking it was like a kind of a throwaway degree at that point. Had you been kind of doubting that you kind of shifted your degree into this, or like, what am I going to do with my life with this degree? Like, had you already kind of been thinking those thoughts before this woman came up to you?
I wasn't doubting it, but I couldn't see a path of how to make it work. And so
Yes.
one person who I didn't know, I let her put a
Yes.
lie into my mind. And it was just enough resistance to where I was like, well, I just had limiting beliefs. And I was like, well,
Yes.
if I want to make metal works, I need more tools. And I don't have any tools. I don't have any money, so I'm just not going to do it. And
Wow.
like her saying, with her hostility, just I was like, okay, it just kind of shut me down.
Wow, that's great. Well, it makes me think, like you said, it could have been like something like spiritual warfare, something which I 100% believe in. I was just reading a book or a review on a book, or I can't remember where I saw this quote, but it's a C.S. Lewis quote from the Screw Tape Letters, that book he wrote, that kind of talks
Yeah.
about like, not to get really deep, but it's basically a conversation between two demons, and they're talking about how they're going to like pick on a human. And it's very insightful. I think every person that believes in God should definitely read that so that they understand how Satan works. One of the quotes is, The devil wants you to be in maximum uncertainty so that your mind is either filled with contradicting pictures of the future that arouse either hope or fear. You can fear God and you should fear God in a reverential, loving way. And you can also employ hope from God that things are going to work out in your favor. But Satan can deceive you and also provide those two things in certain scenarios. And I feel like maybe that's what this woman was doing because you had your whole life was ahead of you. And of course the devil's going to be threatened by that. You know, of course he's going to be like, oh shoot, I got to get this girl before she really does anything great in the world.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Oh man, that gives me the chills. And so what made you pursue going forward after you heard this woman tell you this?
Well, when we were in Portland, I was working at a job I just wasn't happy at, and
Okay.
I decided to look for other employment. And so I just Googled around like jewelry designers and emailed a couple of them saying, hey, I have this degree. Are you looking to hire anyone? And someone hired me. So,
That's incredible. You got to see like what the potential was, and that's so special. And not to not to take over the conversation, but I just want to make a point too with what something that you said about how school, college in particular, doesn't necessarily open the door or give any insight towards becoming an entrepreneur in any way. And I also had a very similar, I had a wonderful experience in college and I'm glad I went. However, that entire time I was there, I never considered doing this full time. I never did. I was always like kind of groomed to being a teacher of some kind. And so I thought when I get graduated, I have to find a teaching job. And there was never really any other door open. Like no one ever showed me I could be a pinstriper or a letterer or a graphic design was kind of there, but not really. It was just more very much teaching. And that I think is a huge detriment to college, just college experience in general. I think they could really do a better job at that.
definitely. I think having a semester of some type of art entrepreneur.
Like business, marketing, all the things that we have to force to do.
Yes, I think
Yeah,
it could be so transformational if you
I
were able
agree.
to start with a leg up on that.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're back to your story. How, so you're starting to realize like, okay, this business is pretty much what I could be doing on my own. So did you have any kids at that time? Were you looking at potentially making that jump or how did the story continue?
From there, we ended up moving from Portland, Oregon to Waco, Texas, where we are
Okay.
now. And whenever we moved here, I knew I wanted to keep working in this field of
Okay.
making jewelry or some type of metal work. And there wasn't anyone here that I could work for. I think 2015. And so this
Okay.
was like the heyday of everyone starting their own, like the makers movement was really big to where
Okay.
everyone was like starting their own business and doing some type of craft, it felt like.
Yes.
So the idea that I would just start a business when I moved here was kind of a no-brainer. So I probably in hindsight, I had more confidence than I had earned at that point in time.
Yes. That could be a good thing.
And
Like blissful ignorance is sometimes a good thing.
the beauty, the
Yes.
beauty of it. So, yeah, I started my business when we moved back here,
Wow.
back to Waco.
And so how is your husband in that decision?
Oh my word. Okay, so this is so funny. We were moving here for him to open a business with some other people. I should say that we had lived here before,
Okay.
and he went to grad school here, so we had lived here for like a year and a half. So we
Okay.
already had new people and had a bunch of connections here. And we were moving back for him to open this business. Well, that business, it, he ended up leaving that business before it got off the ground.
Okay.
And it's open now, just not something we're a part of.
Yes.
But so it was kind of this joke like, oh, we're both moving to Waco and we're starting these businesses. And I'm sorry, we had no money. We had no we were just like so excited.
Did y'all have kids at this time?
We didn't.
You opened up this jewelry business and you had connections, you said, but did you have customers like right away, or how did that go initially for you?
I had some customers,
Yeah.
but not not enough to really. I was definitely like in the side hustle territory,
Yes.
but I didn't have another job.
Wow.
And Tommy, that's my husband, we had talked about, okay, Ellen, you can try this for 6 months. And then after that, like, let's check in. Well, we were 3 months in, and I was like, I love this. I don't want to do anything else. I did not have any income to make that a solid, good decision.
Yes. Like a
But yeah,
strategic thing,
no,
yeah.
no, 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 no. But at this point in time in our marriage and our family, we were not budgeting or like looking at the finances was not something that we were doing.
Hmm.
It was just like happening. And so
Yeah.
he was working and we were just living off of his income at the time. And it probably took a solid 18 months of me being in business to have regular orders coming in and getting wholesale accounts. And at some point in time, I started working with Magnolia Market in Waco, and they were carrying my jewelry. And that was absolutely life changing to where I needed to hire people and because the orders were so large and
Are you serious? Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. You need to tell me about how that is incredible. Okay. So tell me how I was going to talk to you about wholesale, but we might as well just jump into the whole Magnolia thing. 'Cause so they went ahead and tried to order something wholesale from you, or did you reach out to them, or how did that collaboration happen?
They reached out to me and they said that they were looking for some jewelry for their line. What did I have available? So a couple of their buyers came over to my studio, which was in my house at the time, and I made them like a collection of jewelry and they picked out the pieces that they wanted. And that was just the beginning of our relationship. And that was absolutely life changing
Wow.
for me. And if I ever wanted a sign, like let that be the sign.
Oh my gosh, 1,000,000% in that they came to you first. Do you have any knowledge as to like how they found you, or were you doing marketing or shows of any kind for them to have seen your work like that? I mean, obviously you live in Waco, but still, it's a saturated market.
I think so. Something that Magnolia does really well
Hmm.
is that they elevate small businesses.
A hundred
And
percent. Yes.
yes, so I think Waco being a small town in a sense, and also think about it, this was 9 years ago,
Yes. Yes.
that the Magnolia, the business was way smaller.
Yeah.
And so I just happened to know people in the different departments. And I don't honestly know exactly how it came together, all the details,
Yes. Wow. What
but
an opportunity. And so are you still licensed with them, or how did that play out?
I'm not making any product for them right now,
Hmm.
but we, I worked with them for 8 years, I think.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so, was there any overlap with that type of a gig into your painting, or did painting come way later on?
Okay, so painting, this is kind of like the next chapter of my story.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm doing the jewelry business this whole time, growing it, making everything in my studio, different wholesale accounts, direct to consumer as well.
Wow,
And
that's incredible.
not when I was in 2021, I had my second baby,
Okay.
and his pregnancy was really difficult. And it was just a really dark season for me. And after he was born and I was like starting to see the light again, I had this burning desire to start painting again. And I didn't just want to paint for fun. Like I was like, I want to paint and I want to paint as a career, but I didn't know what I wanted to paint. And I didn't just want to, I am not, so, Rick Rubin, the,
Love him.
okay. So in his book, what is the name of his book?
The Create Anyway
The
or
Creative
Creative
Act.
Act, yeah.
Yes. He has this concept that people are either experimenters or finishers. And experimenters love to experiment and they could put more effort on finishing, and finishers could spend more time experimenting because they can like rush through that phase and just get to the finish line. Okay, I am a finisher. And so the like experimenting and playing and just like creating for fun, painting for fun, that doesn't resonate with me, inspire me at all. So when I wanted to start painting in 2021, I was like, I I didn't know what I wanted to do yet. So I really spent some time thinking about what do I want to make? What do I want it to say?
Hmm.
What do I want to communicate? I think art is such a powerful tool to make a statement or impact change or bring awareness to something. And I really sat with that for months thinking about what is it? What what am I going to paint? What am I going to do with this desire?
Yes, that is such a unique place to be in, and it can be very, I don't want to say burdensome, but I like almost like you're carrying around like a heavy wool jacket and you just want to like close it up and be in there and think about. I mean, that's kind of like the visual that I had when because I've been in that position where I'm like, I gotta find my art. Like, I don't want to just make other people's art. Like, I love my customers and my clients that I've done custom work for, but I've been in a season a couple years ago where I was like, I just need to like lessen the sound, lessen the noise, and just get into my own heart and head and figure out what is it that I'm passionate about? Like, what story does my artwork tell other people? So I understand that feeling. And what did you land on? Like, there's a part of your website that talked about like a very prominent thing that you had in your happened in your neighborhood that you were on a walk and saw the flower. And was that like part of this time or?
Yes, that was the
Okay.
spark. So I was every day I would walk my baby in the stroller. And when I was walking one day, there was a little purple flower, like a little weed growing in the middle of the road. And seeing that flower in the asphalt was such a sign of bravery and vulnerability to me that I like walked past it. I was like, wow, that's really beautiful. And I thought about it the whole walk. And on the way home, I went back to that street and I picked it and I saved it because it just, it was such a representation of how I was feeling that something was bursting out of me out of a really hard place. And what was coming out felt really vulnerable. I think creative expression is really vulnerable because you're saying, this is me, this is what I can do, this is what I'm capable of. And that little flower, it could have gotten run over by a car at any moment. I mean, it was literally in the middle of the street.
That's so
And that I felt like that, like I could have gotten run over at any moment, but I was persisting and I could tell something beautiful was coming out of this. And so the first body of work that I made um, in this time was really speaking to that experience of beauty can come from hard places.
Mhm.
And oftentimes you don't see it in the midst of the suffering, in the midst of the pain, but there is usually something beautiful that can come from that. And I used floral motifs in the work, specifically dried or dead florals, because oftentimes when we have flowers and we have them in our home and they're so beautiful, or we're growing them in our yard, whenever they start to wilt or turn brown or die, we're like, okay, this is garbage now. And
Mm.
I'm like, no, 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 no. This is where the beauty is.
Yeah.
This is where the goodness is. And I wanted to give new life to those flowers, but also just the moments in life that we want to discard and throw away. And especially as a mom,
Mm.
I think that there's really tough moments, and you know this, Kate. And there's moments that we don't want to remember or to repeat, or they're just tough.
Yes.
And so I wanted to just shine a light on that and say there can be beauty there too. And a lot of the shapes I repeated over and over on the canvas, which was also just a nod to the repetition of motherhood and how that is a lovely thing, but sometimes it's tough.
Yes. I cannot tell you how much I resonated with the description on your website about this body of work because you mentioned motherhood being so mundane in certain areas. And I wrestle with that so much. And after hearing you describe yourself as a finisher, and now realizing this in myself as we're speaking, like all of all of what I do on a daily basis with my son is just experimental. It's just all play. There's no reason behind it. It literally like I don't I'm not there's no gain to it, on the surface. There's no financial gain. I'm not like working out. I'm not going to have like a six pack after I'm done playing with cars on the floor for the 50th time. Like it's just all very experimental. And I learned in December, actually, when I took a month off of social media, I learned that at those moments, like I would take to social media and I would think, oh, these are all these opportunities I'm missing out on, or here's some creative thing I can like be inspired by. And as soon as I took that away, those moments became opportunities for me to see like playing with trucks in the dirt with my son was a finishing moment. Like if I do this and if I am present here, the outcome will be so much worth it. It will be so worth it when he's out of my house and he will remember this moment. And it's so hard to remember that in when you're waking up at like I know we both wake up at like before the sun, long before the sun to
Mhm.
get everything done, but it's just a very strong reminder to just stay present. And I think the work that you made just really it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I don't think on the very front end, I wouldn't get the feeling of like, oh, mundane motherhood and this really tough time. It's just a beautiful body of work that is very ethereal almost. But then when you read the description, you're like, oh, I so resonate with this person's message, and now I get it in the art. It's so pretty and it's so meaningful, and when it's well done, it's such unique, cool art. And so can you talk about how you kind of started with your style? Because it's so cool on your website, and I want to give you props on this. You can go through on Ellen's website and look at each year that she started painting, and it has like an archived gallery from like since 2021 until now, and you can see like how her work has transformed from that time to where we are now. And you can see these little through threads where you kept some things that you liked and you took away things that maybe you didn't feel were fitting anymore. And it's just so cool to see like it was so inspiring. I can't tell you how much like inspiration I got out of seeing that like 5 year progress of how your style has it changed and transformed. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You're
That's
welcome.
so kind. I do feel really proud of having a unique perspective.
Yes, yes,
And that was something that was initially holding me back was I didn't just want to copy someone else's work.
yes,
And but I don't know, like finding your style, finding your unique voice in art,
yes.
how do you even do that or describe that or teach that? I don't know. I don't know how I came to this. I,
Really?
in a brave way, I think I was just experimenting
That is
and
so cool.
trying. I didn't, most of the supplies I had were not, um, I knew I needed to buy new supplies
Yeah.
because I had like some old acrylics, but I'm like, I think this is from high school, so probably not my best bet.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, let's just try something.
The whole finding your style thing and like trying to teach that or talk about it, it's just a whole nother in-depth conversation because there's so many different facets that play into it. But I love that you talk about, like, my dad always says the struggle is the blessing. And that's exactly your story, is the struggle is the blessing. Can you don't, without going into too much detail, can you talk about how it is being a mom and an entrepreneur and like the struggles or the successes that you found with having both of those roles in your life?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite conversations. It has really taken me time to find that what is the harmony between being an entrepreneur, a creative one, and being a mother, because they don't really feed each other and they
Mm,
both require a lot of caring energy, which I only have so much of that. And I need, I find I need this was before I had kids, I need a lot of alone time. And I'm not ashamed of that at all.
yeah,
That's just how I am. And I really thrive on that. And motherhood does not, it,
cater that.
you're, no, no, no,
No.
no, 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 no. And so the thing I aim to do is to be 100% present where I am.
Yes.
I am not perfect at this, but when I am working, I aim to just be working.
Mhm.
And even like I try to be, I don't know, it's a little bit too intense sometimes, like a drill sergeant to myself, more or less,
I totally
because I
understand.
want to make it count. And
Yes.
I want to feel proud of what I accomplished when I was working. But
Yes.
then I also, when I'm with my family, I want to be so present with them, knowing that I've done a good job and knowing that my work is done. And that one is a harder struggle for me to be present with them because sometimes, like you said, playing trucks again can be, it's draining in a different way. And so my mind will wander and think about, oh, I could do this idea, or
Yes.
oh, did I respond to that email? And
Hmm.
so trying to be present, 100% present where I am, that's my biggest. If I can do that in a day, I'm just blissed out.
It's thrilled.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh man, I just want to give you a huge hug because I totally resonate with everything you're saying so much. Do you have any tips or procedures or daily things that you do to try and plan to be present? Because I feel like to be present, you have to be organized and planned and know, like, okay, tomorrow in the studio, I'm working on this. And so I only have this allotted amount of time. Is there anything that you have like that? I know you have a pretty grueling daily schedule as far as when you wake up and everything.
Yeah. I really tried to build a rhythm of habits in my life so that I'm not deciding every day is not a decision of when
Mm,
or what. I know I'm going to be in the studio for these hours, and it's pretty much the same Monday through Friday.
yes.
And I try to plan out, if I can, the day before
Yes.
my tasks, and I number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever.
Yes.
And I just force myself to do whichever one is going to be the most important or most impactful instead of the one that's the easiest or the one that's going to make me feel good,
Yes.
which is very difficult to do. And like you said, I do start pretty early. And sometimes at that hour of the day, I start at 4 a.m. Doing the most difficult thing is just not fun, but because I have this habit, I'm
Yes.
like, great, as soon as that's done, I'm gonna be so happy. And
Yes.
yeah, today I did everything on my to-do list. This is not a brag. This is, and I realized I felt so much happier. And I realized I think a lot of days I put too many things on my to-do list, almost like a stretch goal, but then I beat
Mm-hmm.
myself up for it when I don't finish it.
Mm.
But I'm like, Ellen, that was impossible. There's no
Yes.
way you could have done all of that. Like, who do you think you are? And you have other commitments and obligations. And I kind of learned, I'm learning now, you might do better by not putting by putting less things on the to-do list and accomplishing those. And if there's more time to do other things, you can always do that, but not being so intense all the time.
Oh man, I totally understand. It's reminding me of this podcast that my husband and I listen to. I talk about it here a lot, but Andy Frisella always talks about the power list, and it is, I think it's 5 things that you do in your day, and once that 5th thing is done, you're done for the day. And he's like, if you're done for the day at noon, then that's fine. As long as you got those 5 tasks done, then you can know, okay, I did what I set out to do today, and I equally have piles of to-do lists that just are just like any normal person with sanity would look at them and be like, there's no way. There's no way. And my husband is usually that person. But he believes in me, but at the same time, he's like, okay, you need to just take a breather here. So you were feeling like the flour and the asphalt was like encroaching in on you during that season of your second child. What were you experiencing? Like, were you still creating at that time, or were you pretty much putting that on a shelf, going through these really hard emotions? Because I love to ask people how they create through feelings like that in hard, hard times when the whole world seems to be crashing in on you. Are you still creating, or what are you doing during that time?
In all 3 of my pregnancies, I have had palpable creative block, and
Wow,
there is no creating. And
incredible.
which I, that in my second and third pregnancy, that just put me straight into perinatal depression because when
Hmm.
so much of for me, creating gives me purpose, but it also brings me joy. And I know that God has created me to, in his image, also as a creator. And
Mm,
so when that ability and that gift is not accessible to me,
mm,
it makes me feel like, what is my purpose and why am I here? I, it, it am I even worthy to be alive? That type of feeling. And so there's no creating happening. So in pregnancy, I'm not creating. And
mhm.
fortunately, I can still make jewelry in that time because that doesn't feel like a creative process.
Oh,
Once the
interesting.
designs are, once if I've already designed a piece, just making it is like I can do that no problem because it's not requiring new creativity. It's just like plug and play. This is
Okay.
you cut it to this length, da 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 da, da, fill in the blank.
Yes.
But for designing new jewelry or
Hmm.
painting, there's no way that I could do that
Hmm.
because, or at least in my experience, that just hasn't been accessible to me. So,
Hmm.
but like now I would say is a time when people are saying the world is falling apart and
Right.
every, okay, that actually does not impact my creativity because
Interesting.
I'm like that, all of that is going to keep happening whether or not I'm creating.
That's a valid insight. Yes.
And so I may as well be creating and not focusing on everything that's wrong or bad or not going my way or whatever.
Right. Right. I mean, God made you as an artist and a creator and a creative person. So, like, you not pursuing that part of you is a detriment to the world just as much as a war would be, in my opinion.
Yes.
That's wonderful. That's a wonderful perspective.
Have you experienced creative block?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. It's more for me, it actually happens like mid project. If I if I take too much time away from a project, I really, really feel like resistance, as Stephen Pressfield puts it. Like it's very hard for me to step back into a project that I've taken even like a week or two off of from. And that was really challenging for me when I first had my son because the time of having 10 hours a day to paint went down to like maybe two. And then the to-do list was carrying over to the next day when instead of getting all this done in one day, I could like spread it out through a week. And then that would haunt me while I was doing all my other tasks in the day. And I was like, I got to get back to the studio. That's all I kept thinking of. And it was such a detriment to my daily life. And so that's where it really
Mm.
shows up for me is like mid project. Like I got to have a very planned, and now my son's two, almost three. So I've learned how to like get through this to where if I have that stopping point and I get there after that 2 hour mark is done, I don't carry that painting into the next task. I can leave it in my studio and move forward with whatever I have going on next. Going back into kind of your painting process and how your daily routine looks, can you talk a little bit about like what you do each day in your business?
So Monday through Friday, I work in the studio from 4 to 8 a.m.
Okay.
and I will do some mix of painting. I will probably paint for 3 of those hours, and then the last hour, hour and 15 minutes is just like miscellaneous. If I'm writing my email newsletter, I'll do that,
Yeah.
or whatever I think is like the most important task for
Yes.
that day. I want to get those done in that first block. And then I work again from 12 to 3, sometimes 11 to 3.
Okay.
And that is like, I don't typically paint in those hours, and I'll just do all of the other necessary.
Administrative, businessy type task.
Yes.
And so when you're creating, you're using, is it watercolors and acrylics, or how do you make these like translucent looking paintings? Like and you have like something on your website called a monotype. I've never even heard of that. So can you talk a little bit about your creative process?
So I paint with a high fluid acrylic
Fluid,
on
okay.
raw canvas. And so these acrylics are designed for airbrush
Oh, yes.
spraying.
Yes.
So they're really liquidous,
Yes.
designed that way so you can add water, more water to them, and it doesn't compromise the quality of the paint. And then I do paint on canvas without any primer on it, and so it does soak in more like watercolor. And I use that effect and paint with, I'll just paint one color layer at a time, and then
Okay.
once that dries, I'll do the next one
Okay.
and layer them up. And so I like to have a lot of pieces going at once because I paint it flat on the table. I'll paint it, let it dry, move it off my work table, bring another piece on. And then I also make cyanotypes that you saw, which
Okay.
cyan is the French word for blue, and it's kind of like the original photography concept where you take a light sensitizing chemical, paint it on any surface. It doesn't have to be paper. And
Okay.
then when you expose that to the light, you can put objects on top of it. It creates the negative or like an inverse of
Yes.
what you see.
That is incredible. And that type of art making goes so well with your canvas work. It's incredible. That's just insane to me. How did you make that correlation? Like, oh, this mark making on canvas would so easily translate to this, or was it easy to find that out?
Okay, it was kind of how I first got started when I was painting, because now I'm not using the floral motifs anymore. But when I was first using the floral motifs, I was making cyanotypes of the flowers to get
Okay.
the cool like outlines of the shapes that you
Yes.
see in the pieces. And people would ask me, Ellen, can I buy one of these cyanotypes? And I was like, no, no, no. Those are like, those are not, there's no composition here. I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm throwing like an old bouquet of flowers on this paper, putting it into the under the light, getting these shapes. I was like, you don't want to buy that. That's not nice looking, you know? Like, you know how artists are always like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
that's trash.
Yes.
So I had that in mind, and I was thinking also cyanotypes, there hasn't been, from my perspective, a lot of innovation. And a lot of cyanotypes that you see are traditionally plants.
Okay.
And I was like, no one needs another one of these. You
Yeah.
can already find these all over the internet.
Yes.
And they are lovely.
Yes.
Okay. They're beautiful, but that wasn't what I wanted to make. So when I realized that I could create something that was the same idea
Mm-hmm.
as my paintings, the same shapes, communicating the same thing, but on paper, on a cyanotype that honored a part of my process I had already been using,
Yes.
it was like, oh, this is perfect. And also, they works on paper are just at a much more affordable price point than paintings. And so it kind of is a great entry point for someone to buy a piece of art
Mm-hmm.
that, because I still make them all one of a kind. They're not printed, and I don't do the same composition twice. Just they're so much more accessible for someone who wants original art but doesn't have a ton of money to buy something or isn't comfortable or it's a new market to them.
Yes, and I think that's such a valid point. Was that on purpose that or was that kind of an accidental, like, oh wow, this is like a good mid-priced object or piece of work that somebody can use as like an entry level piece to buying hopefully an original and down the line a bigger piece on canvas. Was that kind of an accident that you found that out, or it was definitely
Totally on purpose.
on purpose?
That was
That's
like a
so cool.
calculated choice. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That is so cool. And that you were using them originally as just like reference photos essentially. And here people are like, oh, I want to buy that. That's so special. I love that.
Now I make them on purpose now.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're not accidents anymore, but it started out as like
That's so cool.
a study. Yeah.
That is so cool. And so this dives into my conversation that I like to ask everybody, like, and I always wonder if people are confused why I ask them on the show, because craftsmanship usually like goes with the word of like metalworking or woodworking. But would you consider yourself a craftsman or craftswoman?
I think I think that's all like in how you define it, right? And
Absolutely.
so I think a craftsman or is someone who transforms raw materials into a good or into a product.
That's a
And
yes.
I remember when you were talking about your definition of it, I can't remember in this moment. And so by that definition, 100%.
Yeah.
But remind me how you define it.
That's very similar to what I say. Like anybody that takes something and creates something from it that is a product or a usable item is kind of how I saw it. So that way, and when I was creating the podcast, I was thinking, who am I wanting on this show? And a lot of the times, I was wanting like writers and musicians and like photographers. And I'm thinking, how can I tie this in? But then I started thinking, well, my definition of craftsmanship is someone that takes nothing and makes something from it, and then in our business and then creates a business out of it. They don't have to, but as a creative entrepreneur, of course, that's what the next step would be.
Hmm.
Do you have anything that you look for when it comes to defining good craftsmanship or quality craftsmanship in other people's work or your own?
I think for me, it's integrity.
Mm,
And I I think the defining good versus bad is not quantifiable. That's just
mm,
your opinion, right? But for me, I think when I'm attracted to good craftsmanship, it's whenever the work is made with integrity, when it's
mm,
honest work, when it's not someone trying to copy another person's style or create what they think they're supposed to create, but when they're creating from a deep place and making something that's true to who they are, that is how I see good craftsmanship. And I think that's something that we can all identify, and it's something we can all feel in our bodies, even if we don't have the words to say it. But when we see something that is a good, honest work,
yes.
it's like, oh, something's happening here.
And I think honestly, this plays into the AI conversation, which I would love to hear your opinion on AI generated imagery. Because I think that a lot of the pushback on that is the fact that you feel like, ugh, initially, because it wasn't human created. What is your thoughts on
Yes.
AI? Do you have any thoughts or anything on that?
I think that there's a lot of tools
Same,
that have been made with AI that are amazing,
same.
but the imagery particularly, it to me, it's like worse than junk food to where it's like
Yes.
it doesn't look good, it doesn't make you feel good, it doesn't taste good.
Mm,
I and like junk food you want more of,
mm,
but AI art, I certainly don't. And I think I'm really hoping for the upcoming generations that creating music and art and poetry is still something that is honored and taught, and
mm.
it doesn't become a lost art because I can ask ChatGPT to write a poem for me or
Yes.
whatever it may be. Yeah.
I agree with you 100% because I was just having this conversation on another podcast and he was all for AI, which, like you said, I agree with you on the tool aspect. I use AI tools in my business for the words and the copy on my website and things like that. But when it comes to the imagery, I agree with you. There's just something about it that is so different. And yeah, I think about my son, when I was in school, we had, what was that book that you could like, it was Cliff Notes. And I remember Cliff Notes being like a big thing, like on book reports, like, oh, I didn't read the book. Like, here's the Cliff Notes thing. I can write the whole report from this. But now you can just type it into Chat GPT. It writes you the whole book report. And that's so enticing. I can remember how enticing it was to like steal a copy of that Cliff Notes book and get something from that. So it's a matter of like teaching our kids, like, and it goes back to integrity, teaching our kids, like, look, you can use these tools, but let's learn how to drive the manual car before we get into the electric car type of a thing. That's just
100%.
that's so true. That's what my dad always says. Like, you're not getting a car until you can drive the manual one. That's how they were made. So he's old school.
Wow.
Yes. Well, I want to talk to you about a project that maybe tested your abilities, whether it was in jewelry making or painting. Is there a project that stands out to you? Either like a difficult customer or a challenging project. Was there anything that stands out to you that you can think about talking about?
The thing that I was really thinking about what is like the most difficult project or thing I had to overcome or
Yeah,
challenge
yeah.
I didn't foresee was certainly pregnancy and just the creative block, which we have touched on.
Yes.
And I didn't ever, I think as a creative person, creativity just is who I am and it flows through me all the time. So overcoming that and finding myself again and finding my identity and creativity again was the biggest, has been the biggest obstacle that I have faced
Mm.
more than once.
Do you have a way that, do you remember a moment where you were able to like start creating again after your second, was it your son that you said was born? Your
My
second?
son, mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I have, I've actually written about this before because I think it's not just a switch that gets flipped
Mhm.
on. It's like a muscle. It's like
Mm.
working out again
Yes.
and doing like small creative projects.
Yes.
And even like, I think you mentioned music, listening to good music
Mm.
can be so transformational. And
Yes.
I think a lot of times for me, coming back to creativity is opening myself up and being open to receiving and giving myself into the process or giving myself into the project. And I often find creativity can get sparked when we do something that's outside of our comfort zone or outside
Mm.
of the medium that we typically work in. As I've come back to myself, my creative self, putting myself in those positions of trying different things that I know I'm not going to be a master at has been really transformational and a really useful tool.
Wow. Can you see the signs of it coming?
No, but I can remember this one time I heard myself laughing.
Mm.
It was sad because I realized when was the last time I laughed? This sounds so foreign,
Mm.
but it also gave me so much hope because it was an external sign that something was changing internally.
A lot of this is reminding me of like a very like a testimony almost. Like, can you talk a little bit about how your faith has played a role in this kind of creative journey that you've had, both in business and art making and jewelry making?
Yeah, I think so often when I just get like a white knuckle grip on how I think it should go, or the success that I want to have, or the opportunity that I'm pursuing,
Hmm.
that and nothing is happening. And I'm just getting frustrated and I'm questioning everything. Am I in the right path? Am I doing the right thing? It's only when I finally release and I open my hands and I say, God, it only your plan is going to work. And I surrender my plan. I trust in your plan. That finally, once I release the grip, that God has room to work because I'm not over there just like trying to make it all do it myself and trying to control everything. And I mean, time and time again, opportunities have come at that moment when I am like, okay, I can do no more. And God, I feel like God's like, yeah, you couldn't have done it this whole time.
Oh, I totally feel that. Such a powerful visual with the white knuckling thing. Totally get that. Totally understand that feeling. It's like the
Yeah.
striving and this, self-reliance and so much of being a mom and being a business owner has taught me how much I idled those things. Like I idle my to-do list sometimes even, and it's like really once he said like once you just let go, and unfortunately for me it's usually I get to a point where I'm like I'm just going to quit my business and not do this anymore, and then as soon as I say that and then I go to prayer and I think okay, I'm just going to, God, this is all you, I've done everything I can. And then all of a sudden, like you say, the next morning, I mean, this has like tangibly happened where I've said this, the next morning I will wake up. It is inevitable 100% of the time, something wonderful happens. And whether that's
Yes.
a commission that comes through that's going to pay the bills or a sale on the website or an opportunity, it's incredible. And I know a lot of people consider that serendipity, but I do not. That is not serendipitous. That serendipity does not happen in my life. But was there another project or a painting that really resonated with you, stayed with you, a good thing that happened?
So my most recent body of work is called Sheer Disposition, and it is exaggerated abstractions of the female body.
Okay.
And the shapes are exaggerated in the way that I feel valued as a woman and how I see the West putting expectations and values on women. And in
Hmm.
making this body of work, as artists, we work alone, but the
Mhm.
work is not just for us.
Hmm.
And I talked to so many women in making this work, and they really generously shared their stories with me. When I finally got to share the work and women got to see it,
Yeah.
and seeing how many people were crying and saying, I see myself in this. I feel this. I can't say it, but I can feel something in my body and seeing this work. And thank you for giving voice to these issues and thank you for being brave. That is something I felt so proud of because making this work and talking about some of these things, it felt scary because I know not everyone shares my viewpoint,
Yes.
and that's okay.
Yes.
But it felt like a really brave step to me. So whenever the work was resonating with people, and I just felt so proud,
Hmm.
and I felt I knew the work communicated what I was hoping for it to communicate, and that was like the biggest win and assurance for me.
100%. Oh, congratulations on that. I think that is
Thank you.
beautiful. That's wonderful. Can I ask you something that you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I've had issues with this. Had the work, not I want to say fallen flat, but had you not received as much like attaboys or had you not had any sales with this show, like would you have felt that the work was still a success from your perspective?
Yes,
Mm.
I would have. I think the beauty of art making is the time that it takes because for me, I I had so much time to create the work and to think about it while I'm making it. And I talked to other people the whole time that even if they didn't see the work, I knew that the idea resonated, which, hear me out, I would have made the work even if the idea didn't resonate because it was that important to me. And it had
Yes.
been stirring in me for so long. I was terrified to make the work, which was a sign to me that I had to make it because anytime I'm scared of something, that's usually an indicator light to me that that's the right thing to do versus the different than like I'm scared because it's dangerous.
Oh, totally. I get what you're
You
saying.
know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think had people not resonated with it, this is maybe my pride. I would have thought, oh, that was the wrong audience.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't for them. And there, I did get pushback from people who were like, "This isn't my story," and I get that. It's
Yeah.
not for everyone. It's we all are have a different story, and
Yeah.
I'm not offended by that. I'm like, great.
Yeah. I mean, there's a saying that everyone says for a reason, like different strokes for different folks, like no true
Yes,
words.
yes,
Oh, well, thanks for answering that question. It's kind of off the cuff, but it almost made me cry because I've had work in the past that I just so deeply needed to make for one reason or another. And I'm thinking about a series that I did that like it didn't sell the original works did not sell like I would hope they would have sold. And I used to think of this series as like a fail or like a waste of time or I don't know, like I took the wrong path, like I was misguided or I took or just wasn't listening. And but now, like 4 or 5 years away from that, I can see so many like wonderful things and opportunities and uh, different style choices that I've made that have now made my career what it is now. And it's crazy how much of time I spent feeling like a failure or a waste of time was spent. It's just so thank you for saying that because I understand it. I needed to make that series for a reason. And I think as artists and creative people, there's certain work that just has to be coming out of us at certain times, whether it does anything in the world or not. It's like, okay, that file's out. So now I can make new room in my head for new files. So that's really
yes.
cool. Thank you for being vulnerable about that. I love
I
that.
think that that's the hard part where capitalism and art gets
Mm,
complicated because as artists, we want to create, like you said, you had this work had to come out of you. And then when it did and it wasn't well received, then yeah, you start backpedaling, questioning yourself, did what's going on here?
yeah.
But no, that was the right thing at the time. But adding in capitalism that your creativity has to be for sale
Yeah.
and you have to show a tangible result, aka money, from what you did, from time spent, from materials purchased. That's where we can really, it gets so complicated and we can put
Mhm.
undue pressure on ourselves
Mm,
and question our instincts. But like you said, so many good things came out of that,
mhm.
even though it wasn't backed up by essentially the money at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. You've been painting for what, 4 years or 5 years then?
For
Four. Wow. And so was this your first solo show? And we should mention it was at Washington Gallery in Waco. Was this your first solo show or
this was my second.
your second? Okay. And where was your first one?
Another gallery in Waco, which is now closed, and that was in
Okay.
2023.
Do you see yourself doing another body of work or what is your next kind of move in this industry?
Yes, I am still painting all the time, every day. I'm working on a series now, which I'm loosely titling Soft Place to Land.
I love that. Wow, I can see how that, if it's in the same kind of style, I could see where that would kind of play beautifully in with your style, your art making style. That's awesome. Well, wrapping this up, I do want to ask you, what is the trait that you feel like would be like the most powerful or life-giving trait that you have that's helped you in your art or your business?
I think I there's a lot of words that come to mind. Perseverance, tenacity, and also adaptability, and just being open to how things change. When I started out, I never thought I would be doing wholesale on the level that Magnolia, the opportunity they gave me. And so just adapting to, okay, how's this going to work? Who do I need to get on my team? What does hiring look like? And then tenacity to just keep going and persevere. And, in business, there's a saying, business is easy till people get involved.
Yeah.
And I think it
Yes.
just takes a lot of grit to keep going. And I think that has been what has served me the best is sometimes a blind, blind ambition.
Mm. Yes, yes, that's beautiful. Well, I just want to thank you so much for being here with me tonight and being so vulnerable and answering all these like very deep, insightful questions. Thank you so much. Can you talk about or share with people where people can find your work? I know you have a Substack as well, which we didn't cover too much, but you have a wonderful podcast and you're writing there as well. So share all the places.
Yes, please join me on Substack at ellenmote.substack.com. And there I write about creativity, the creative life, travel, and sometimes motherhood. And my website is ellenmote.com, and I'm also on Instagram at ellenmote.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being here, and I hope to meet you in person very soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you for listening to The Curated Craftsman. If you were inspired by this conversation, please leave a review, share the show, and subscribe.